The soul of an instrument of peace is the purpose of a preposition, and to execute that instrument is to put into action a force for good. Laws are defined as charters and constitutions, statutes, codes, and ordinances that are designed to renew, repair, or sustain a society are called laws. It was written that the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Careful thought and contemplation were a mode of morals, ethics, and practices at the time of the drafting of the Declaration of Independence for the Constitution of a New World. For this reason, the Florida Constitution was drafted and designed in support of the U.S. Constitution that was written in Philadelphia. The forefathers and scientists had a vision for the future and the repair of our world, which led to selecting Florida for its natural and scientific value. In the American Heritage Dictionary, point as defined in the U.S. Government American Heritage Dictionary, printed in 1982, is defined as a tapering extension of land projecting into water, or cape, such as the Florida Peninsula, or i.e., trees projecting into the atmosphere. Now, the geographical position of Florida has more than geopolitical value. Florida legislation has a responsibility to its people and accountability to the nation for the world. Funding for Cape Canaveral must include funding for more than just the NASA facility launch pad. Section 7 of the Florida Constitution addresses the concern for natural beauty. There's an error in their scripting and wording. Section 7 of the Florida Constitution should address the concern for environmental beauty, and environment, as it shall be the policy of the state to conserve and protect its environmental resources and scenic beauty. Adequate provision shall be made by law for the abatement of air and water pollution and of excessive and unnecessary noise, and for conservation and protection of natural resources. Section B addresses a problem yet is unclear about any solution, and therefore it appears as a statement and a question for citizens and faculty alike. Section C states that to protect the people of Florida and their environment, drilling for exploration or extraction of oil or natural gas is prohibited on lands beneath all state waters which have not been alienated and that lie beneath the mean high water atmosphere, lying in the outermost boundaries of the state's territorial seas. This prohibition does not apply to the transportation of oil and gas products produced outside of such waters. The subsection is self-executing and in need of revision. The power of the constitutional amendments is provided in Section 8F. The Florida judge can hear testimony from any witness that is concerned about Florida, its people, and/or its institutions. Article 6, Section 1A states that the education of children is a fundamental value of the state of Florida. It is therefore a paramount duty of the state to make adequate provisions for the education of all children residing in its borders. Adequate provision shall be made by law for a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high-quality system of free public schools that allows students to obtain high-quality education, and for the establishment, maintenance, and operation of institutions of higher learning and other public education programs, i.e., Mission Earth. Higher learning, the atmosphere above, learning from the environment below. So that would mean via satellite, they can look and see the progress Florida is making for environmental atmospheric sciences. Now, that the needs of the people, America, may require. To ensure that children attending public schools obtain a high quality education, the legislature shall make adequate provision to ensure that By the beginning of the 2010 school year, it is now 2022, there are a sufficient amount of classrooms so that, see sections 1, 2, and 3, a high quality education requires adequate and sufficient balanced diets. Florida is accountable to the higher learning institutions of the United States for its wealth in climate study and atmospheric monitoring. School in the state of Florida consists of more than just a classroom, just as a church in the Old Testament consisted of more than just a building. The writers of the Constitution said that the pen is mightier than the sword because with each page the writer and the listener is reminded of the need for trees. Trees. Pens. Painting God's heavenly art called clouds. Now, in an effort to voice the same concern, the page you hold in your hands is also a reminder of why the Paperwork Reduction Act was activated to reduce the loss of trees and forestry. An amendment to the Florida Constitution is required to address these concerns in many United States. The addition of both natural and technological advances are needed to protect Florida's natural environment and also honor its commitment to provide research and development of other natural environments. The psychology of law is based upon environment, its people, and their care for their neighboring environments. Land plots and deeds shall not be based upon the value of people. The value of a people is based upon how they value their environment and its people. Agriculture and environmental expansion is the natural equipage of any people. When the necessity of an environment becomes so displaced as to affect the people, the natural requires technological and natural solutions. The sheriff of a county is authorized to watch over zoning, and the police department is authorized to enforce city code and ordinances that aid and support the sheriff and deputy services. Public lands may not be purchased by public officials using taxpayer money unless those lands are put to good public use. The merger of public school and community recovery plans are vital to a community in need of economic and ecological recovery. A public school is defined as any public gathering or location used for the benefit of a community. A good example of that is identifying the United States as a community and Florida as a public school. Hereinafter, the Space Coast and its partners reference as the Florida Enterprise. Enterprise solutions are establishments, resources, and education benefiting the community. Test farm and farming sites are required for both atmospheric study, institutions, and resource result analysis. Test farms are identified by the forestry and crop sciences that work in harmony with the climate conditions and effective proactive change. Florida forestry and national parks are already present in Florida. However, this does little for climate change and atmospheric study. Test farm sites are good for education, hands-on skill training, and introduction to technologically advanced Earth mission crew training. The addition of such institutional public and private school institution lands does more than virtually introduce life. Saving nature and technology. Life-saving nature and technology provide safety and security for all of Florida's residents and citizens. Citizens and residents alike have asked how a more responsible budget could be accomplished and not devised. Citizens and residents have asked how crime rate and overpopulation could be reduced. Resources, funding, and proper application problems can be addressed in more reasonable fashions through proper observance and construction. K-12 program funding and sheriff project funding go hand in hand when weighing how to reform a community by observing its rehabilitations and its accomplishments. The middle ground is the space required for settlements and expansions, both near and far. The addition of different types of test farms in multiple locations provide both insight and advancement for both in-state and out-of-state funding. The budget of public, private, and correctional institutions are often in question, and the question has often been, who instead of what gets the funding? Well, there's lands that need funding. The second part of this question is often, where does this funding come from? The papers you hold in your hands are just one perspective of the answer to that question. The third part of that question is often, who does that funding come from or where? Educational funds are often thought as only being public or private school funding through a local school board. The faculty of those regional school boards often misguide those funds due to lack of understanding the community as a whole, whereby those funds often could be better managed and supplemented through community involvement and fail-safe planning, such as zoning and agricultural research. Generating internal and external funding is a responsibility and a responsible way of balancing the budget through environment, science, and ingenuity. The lack of proper or equal opportunity education causes societal change that has historically been proven to affect the environment and its people. Once a society has failed, the effects can be seen in the desert. The long-term effects can be observed by the addition of larger cities and environmentally suffering areas. To reverse those effects, without putting a strain on taxes, budgets, and resources, new age technology, nature, and ingenuity are required. Nature and technology are often seen as nature and machinery, whereas new age technology is the introduction of nature, natural technology, and the assistance of technological devices and or machinery. A mechanism is sometimes viewed as a replacement. Herein, a mechanism is viewed as an addition, restore, repair, natural environmental experiment, forestry plot, with crop rotations and crop responses while monitoring their effect on environmental factors such as atmospheric response, humidity, soil dampness, and acidic levels. The addition of these studies proved vital when observing the soil response to atmospheric conditions, crop rotations, and also crop rotations can also rotate plots over time to introduce shrubberies while planting crops at another farming test site. This means if I grow crops on one piece of land for so long, well, I gotta get that mold and that stuff under the dirt, So when I plant those crops for so long, I gotta take and move those crops to another area and maybe plant shrubberies and small trees and ferneries. That way the roots, they hold the water and a little bit of bacteria and stuff like that under the ground. And then I take those and I sell those through a nursery program with plants and stuff. And then I rotate back and I put crops in that area again. Now, that's taking plots over time to introduce shrubberies while planting crops in another farming test site. Public school sites can be arranged also to explain atmospheric rainforest effects and those plants sold to raise funds to local home and garden stores. This relieves the stress on other providers where they can distribute to other sources and projects. Lowe's or Home Depot provides different types of plants. Those plants are often thrown out but not purchased and wasted. Hence the need for local nurseries and plant farms. That puts corporate funds into the hands of small businesses to support community growth of both the natural environment and funds the needed earth science classes. The arrangement and growth of crops can also help with correctional dietary costs while helping the community residents and citizens prepare for the future. Equipment maintenance and future farming technicians will be required for sustainable endeavors now and for the foreseeable future.